nice and let some people show up. So, but we'll go ahead and get things going here. Alright, so what we're going to do is Pask has given me what's going to be published in 4.25 um, for the sample project and the 4.25 first patch that we're going to get. So we're going to run through migrating that to a new project. So I'm starting in the example program that he gave me. I did create a project to migrate to. I created it ahead of time so that I could get the engine plugin all installed because I don't have it installed in my engine since it's technically not out yet. Um, so we're gonna go through a migration and kind of look and see what happens. So what I did to get here is I created a new project as Unreal opens. And I personally chose a blank. The reason I chose blank was because his example is a third person. So if you're going to do a third person, you might as well start from there. Theoretically, you should be able to pick a third person if you want. Um, I like blank because I don't want all the stuff to come with it. It's less for me to clean up later. That's going to come down to personal opinion. His example project is in fact a C++ project, so you'll need Visual Studio to open it and to compile it once. And then from there you can actually put it into just a regular blueprint project. Um, I encourage you to always consider a C++ project because even if you don't touch it, everything's there, and it's very likely one day you'll need to write some code. May not be much, but one day. So be in the code, be comfortable with it. Being in C++ is scary at first, but it gets there. So I just chose a blueprint project to get started. You can tell because I have no classes showing in my C++. So um, his project is completely fine as a C++, and I encourage you to consider starting there. I just like to be able to rename things, so it's a me thing. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up our project settings, and we're going to export the gameplay tags, and we're going to open my notes, and we're going to export Advanced RPG. Wherever you save it to, remember where you saved it. I'm saving mine to a folder on my desktop, if I can ever find my desktop, because it's supposed to be where I'm supposed to be able to find it. Um, but know where you save it, because that's kind of an important piece of exporting. Give me just a minute. I had these all exported for 4.24, but not 4.25. So collision, we're going to export, and some pause for a second here. Um, that is the bare minimum that I think we'll need to do, and we'll double check that real quick. In talking to him, I believe that the base underlying character no longer has a lot of um, input handling. And that's good because although it was awesome to get started to understand how to use it, you'll very quickly run into you want your own input scheme. His input scheme is designed around using a controller. I picked it up and I played with a controller, it is awesome. It's easy to play that way. Um, so what that means is that if we go find our world out, uh-oh, I'm screwing my own environment up. Um, if we, where is our game mode? Edit, project settings, maps and modes. Ooh, I'm missing something. Hmm. World settings are not showing. Intriguing. Alright, so our game mode is ACF PvE game mode base. So let's see where that is. We can see what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the plugin content for a minute, so that you can see. One of the things he did was he pulled more out of what was built into the plugin and put it into his example. And the one we really care about is going to be, like for instance, the sample character. You'll see same inputs that he had set up before, they're all just moved up into this sample player BP. So I'll show you what that means for you if you're trying to migrate later, when we get there. But I want to kind of show you what about that's changed. So we're going to move that over here. No, we're not going to move that over here yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click. Actually, we're going to right click on the content folder because there's nothing else in here. And we're going to migrate. And we are going to migrate to our project's content folder. And we'll let it copy. And we're going to see probably not a problem, but let's see what didn't copy. Can you go away alert message? I want to click the button that's behind you. Um, so the spider skeleton mesh has a reference that's screwed up. I don't know if you saw that pass, but that shouldn't be a problem because look, we can see it. Um, we can see that we can definitely kill the spider. So the sample we're starting with works, and I am using a mouse and keyboard for now. Alright, so we've migrated the sample over. We've exported most of our project settings, but because of the way he laid this out, for the purpose of this, I'm going to also edit project settings, input, and export his inputs. The reason for that is simply because I will be able to turn around and theoretically import all of this and start up one of his maps, which is what I'm going for. I want to make sure that the content I'm migrating works as expected before I start messing with it. So let's see here. So we're going to, in our migration test project now, you can tell because I haven't even built a level yet. We'll make it doubly awesome. It is literally an empty world. Um, we're going to go to edit, plugin, not plugins. Oh, we can see, look, plugins turned on. Edit, project settings. Now, the order that you do this is going to be pretty important. You want to import the gameplay tags the very first thing. And the reason for that is because the gameplay tags drive everything. Advanced RPG settings, Ascent Combat Framework, those both have gameplay tags that have to exist in the engine before you can bring them in. So I could bring in the input and the collisions, but really I cannot stress enough that you must bring in the gameplay tags first. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm not going to save my level because I didn't really do anything in it, and we're going to open this back up. Now, while this opens back up, the first time I did open the sample project, I am not going to. I ended up having to wait probably 5 to 7 minutes. I have other projects that I have that problem with too, so I don't know that it's isolated to this project. But if it happens to you, don't be shocked either. So, if that makes sense to people. Okay, so now we're going to go to Edit, Project Settings, and we're going to double check here. We have all of our gameplay tags, which we'll get into here in a little bit. For his project, he's got some category remappings, which I haven't really read on, but just in the ease of use of understanding his engine, it looks like if you create a tag called RPG secondary attribute, it'll remap to somewhere else. So um, I'm assuming that, but we'll see. We'll see that over time. So the next thing we're going to do, look at my handy dandy instructions, is we're going to import the Advanced RPG, which is Advanced RPG is going to be all of our attribute setup and systems. Um, I'll go through that here in a minute. So the first thing to note, I just clicked on the edit button and everything is selected, but it's not showing until you click the edit button. I'm assuming that's an engine bug. Not a big deal, click the button. So what he's got with these secondary attribute generation rules is curve tables. If my other video is still up, you'll be able to see. I'll go through this. I'm going to cover this more in another video, but real quick at a high level, basically what this element is saying is that the um, the attribute strength, the attribute strength is going to increase the damage um, in by a float curve. And he's got a couple others set here. Now, what does he mean by that? Um, I'll show you by opening up a data table, his data table, and opening up RPG tags real quick. So tags are grouped, um, so their strength, damage is somewhere in here, melee damage. So that's what that's setting up. So that's the advanced RPG. We can see our we can see we've set our root levels. Um, Now what we'll do is we will import the combat framework. Same thing here, the combat framework. You have the edit checkboxes. And damage zone multipliers that he has set, and then the world item class and the damage calculator class, both of which have been, the damage calculator class has been moved out into the project. So a little bit's been moved around, but I think it's for the better. So now, just to make sure that everything's happy honky-dory, we're going to close and reopen one last time. And then, because I am showing how to migrate his project at this point, gotta wait for some shaders to compile, and my computer has all of a sudden not learned, it's forgotten how to compile shaders. And just for the annoying building lighting error or message, and because I haven't built in 4.25 yet, we'll go ahead and run that, and lighting build is complete. So, now what we want to do is we want to check to make sure, one last thing, if you're going to load his level, then you definitely need to make sure you bring in your mappings. Now this is why I start from a blank project personally. I'm not going to be doing VR, heads-up display, any of that. So this gives me a clean start without a lot of that there. It's less for me to have to clean up. So that's why I started with a blank solution. But anyway, so for import, or for the input, we're going to go ahead and import his. And again, that will just get us to where, theoretically, we can play the demo and see that everything works. So yep, we're still getting damage. We're still good there. So now ow. Because I'm not using a controller, there's some things that are going a little bit haywire, but that's because of my choice to use a mouse. If you want to use a mouse and keyboard, and this is why moving the input out to the outer character was so out of the framework was so important, because what we can see is project settings, input. We can now see all of his action mappings, and again, built for a controller. So what's target? Target is T. Alright, so check the targeting system still works. Yep, I can still target somebody. So that is the beginning of that. Now, while I was doing that, my son just called me. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break, or 10-minute break, to give my son a call. Actually, I'm going to end the stream here so that if anybody wants, I'm going to restart it right back up, just so that it's at a good stopping spot. But that will be, for anybody who missed the beginning or whatever, you can go back and watch it. I mean, that took us a whopping 25 minutes to get it fully functional and standalone. You know, we'll even double check to make sure that when we close it and reopen it, it works. Excuse me. And it does, in fact, still work. But I don't want to die because I look embarrassed. So I will be back in a few minutes, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll